It is April 15th. I guess that's tax day, but
Was tax day.
it is, all the rules have changed. But it's
Still have time, Joe.
still the ghosts of previous years are swirling and fighting. So happy April 15th. Good to see you again. What's new?
Good to see you, first of all, Joe. And yeah, as if people are worried about their taxes, I heard those were pushed back. I think it's to July 15th.
Mhm.
So we've got some time there. Now, check on that. I'm not an accountant or I work for the IRS. So if I've made a mistake there, I apologize. But I believe that's what's happened there. And we've had some other changes, too. The mayor had a great briefing yesterday afternoon for our city of St. Petersburg, helping us understand a little bit more of the plan for our city. We are going to restrict ourselves a little bit more. We haven't hit the peak yet, and we haven't flattened the curve. So the mayor is asking for a little bit more restrictive of a moving around of our community. So, Joe, I know you're a tennis player. Tennis courts are going to be closed going forward. So are pickleball courts, as well as dog parks. So for those folks who have utilized that, their city's going to close those down and just ask that they use the parks for moving around, not staying in one place and moving around, or that might be the next piece of what they close down. So they've made some changes there. He also announced some great changes to the Fighting Chance initiative. You know, he's had over 800 businesses and I think 1,300 people apply for it. So it's been an amazing success, and the money's getting out into the folks. And he's changing the requirements of that a little bit. So if your business is in St. Pete, but you don't live in St. Pete, you might live in Treasure Island. Now you and your employees can qualify for the Fighting Chance. So I'd really take a look at that. Another change he made is if you are a travel agency, that's going to be considered a personal services, which is one of those industry clusters that gets that support as well. So there's a chance for that, as well as those employees now for those businesses who weren't qualified because their owner may not have lived in St. Pete can now apply for their personal money.
I think I saw something. The Independent was one that sparked that conversation. They had, all the employees were local, and 2 of the 3 owners were local, and one happened to have moved to Tampa after living here for a long time. And I think that, that was a bit of an injustice that they were really great about correcting very quickly. So kudos to them for pivoting on that.
Yeah, because we said going in, hey, nobody's going to get this perfectly right. And so, but what I've seen our city do is just listen and be flexible. Another great example is there's a great new shaved ice place, Snowballs on 4th Street, that was open for about 6 months. And they didn't qualify because you had to be open for a year. And now they're going to be able to as well, because that's the hardest part. You get open for 6 months and all of a sudden your cash flow goes. It's really hard.
Cool.
So yeah, there's going to be a couple great stories. Now, we probably still haven't caught everybody, but we got to get going. So today, Joe, I thought we'd talk about a little bit about still taking care of folks in models. We haven't talked about senior care at all, but St. Pete's got a lot of it, and we've got some experts in it. So I thought I'd bring in Maddie McCarthy. She not only does our, we'll talk to her about that, but she'll also talk about, she leads our Leadership St. Pete program and what they're up to as well.
Welcome, Maddie.
Hello, how are you guys?
Welcome, Maddie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Doing great.
Great. Now, it looks like you may be somewhere else. Where are you today?
I am in downtown sunny Clearwater, Florida, at the Oaks of Clearwater.
Wow, I've heard of Clearwater. That's a good distance. I hope you traveled safe to get up there.
Thank you.
So a lot of people Maddie, you and I have worked together for a while, and you've been very involved. You're on our chamber board. You run our Leadership St. Pete effort. But tell folks what you do full time and what's your day job.
Sure. My name is Madeline McCarthy, and I am the Senior Regional Director of Operations for a chain of retirement communities. So I assist in owning and operating a chain of retirement communities.
Great. Well, so that has had its own set of challenges, right? And you have had to learn a lot about all kinds of new things. So can you just describe, first of all, how is it right now? Where are you all at? And then walk back a little bit of how you guys got to where you're at.
Sure, absolutely. Things are good. I feel very fortunate and blessed that our teams are really strong and they're really great. As you know, healthcare right now, we generally in the healthcare industry operate under a state of emergency give or take at all times. We're prepared for all different types of emergencies, a pandemic flu being one of them as an emergency protocol standard that we have policies and procedures for. But as we've gone through this, we've certainly had to adapt and change, as this is nothing like what we would typically plan for on a regular basis. It's different having a policy on a piece of paper than implementing something, and our worlds have been rocked. I personally work with the senior living industry, so I work with our most vulnerable population. The seniors right now are relatively speaking, extremely compromised. And it's been really unique kind of going through this process. We're lucky in the state of Florida in that we have a really great support system from our local emergency management operations as well as from the state. We have a lot of different levels, if you will, of individuals who are providing us with feedback, giving us a course of action for us to implement, which is really helpful. We own and operate in the state of Virginia as well, and it's a little bit different there. So in the state of Florida, we're really lucky. We've seen all kinds of changes since this started. I mean, we are on a full quarantine in our properties in Florida. We are accepting no visitors unless medically necessary. Our staff is gowned and masked through the PPE that we have appropriately every day to make sure we're delivering care that's needed to our residents. And it's a slightly different way of operating, but we're doing good.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the things we've heard. First of all, just the health of your senior community. How is it?
Right now, us personally, we're doing great. We have no cases or even suspected cases at any of my properties for staff or residents. So I feel great about that.
Wow.
State of Florida, not so much. So, measures have been taken, like even dispatching the National Guard to come to retirement communities. Our governing agency, ACA, has been sent out to check on protocols to make sure that the right things are in place. So it is a stringent operation for sure, but my team's prepared. They're doing great right now. I'm pretty proud of that.
Well, you and I talked way early on. I mean, like one of the first days, and I was amazed how much you had already implemented. You guys were already locked down before the rest of us realized the Grand Prix was canceled. So I think a lot of why you all are so healthy is a lot of the issues you put in place right away to lock yourselves down. So kudos to you guys for getting ahead of all of that. Now your staff itself, the PPEs, you've helped me, like with Pastor Murphy down in South St. Pete looking for some for his healthcare ministry. How are you guys doing sourcing the PPEs for all those frontline workers?
That's a great question. It was a huge shortage up front, right? Because so many people all over the entire nation, I mean, everybody heard about it. Access to the general supplies that we generally have access to were limited almost immediately. And they were being repurposed and repositioned from standard deliveries to take care of areas in greater metropolitan places like the New York, New Jersey area where they were deemed to be more important at the time. So now the stream is a little bit better, but it's thanks to a lot of people in the community for really stepping up and assisting to kind of transition their business models as well as volunteer to provide some additional, even homemade PPE for our types of communities and other healthcare workers on the front line. So we had a great organization from the city of St. Petersburg, Sewing for St. Petersburg COVID-19 relief, provide us with some homemade masks. So my staff and residents are super grateful for that. And I had them kind of repurpose some of their efforts to make those for Pastor Murphy too.
Great. So who was that? Give them a shout out again. Who's
it's great. My mom's friend Terry Reed started this organization, Sewing for St. Petersburg COVID-19 relief.
Wow. Well, thank you to all those folks. And I imagine there's still, because you're supposed to change out every a lot more often than you are, but so you guys are still going to need these for quite a while, right? So this is not getting.
Right.
What about the isolation and the mental health of your residents? What have you done to adapt to that change?
That's a great question. It's really hard, given that all of our residents, for the most part, are being isolated from their families. Connecting our residents with their families, their loved ones, their friends during this time has been an interesting new way of operating, if you will. Like Chris said, we kind of jumped ahead of this a little bit, having anticipated going through similar shelter in place protocols as we did with Irma. So giving the opportunity to set up remote stations as well as digital opportunities for Zoom, for Skype, for Facebook chat with family members has really been successful for us. We've also partnered with like a lot of people in the community who we're doing pen pals, and we're having people write notes and draw pictures, and we're doing artwork. And we launched a poster campaign that's kind of letting our families know on social media, like, I'm doing great. Happy Easter. I miss you, whoever in the family. So it's been kind of nice to engage in that way. And really, social media has been a huge platform for us to be able to continue that communication and let families know that the residents are good. Internally, it's a little different too. We've had to change some of our operating protocols, like the dining room. Putting couple hundred people together to eat meals is not acceptable. Even though we're fully quarantined, it's still not appropriate. So we've changed some of those measures, and activities go hand in hand with that as well. Working to do hall games so people can stay in their rooms but participate in games on various hallways throughout our community, gathering in smaller gatherings under 5. We're still having regular activities and utilizing a lot of an online platform to project games on the TV station so that residents can participate individually in their rooms to keep that socialization factor alive too. Has also proven to be successful for us.
I'm sure there's families out there that have their loved ones in your facilities, and they're getting a great deal of comfort just to hear how you're approaching all this, because it's got to be scary for everybody, every side of it. But you've always showed me such great ease of understanding what your job is, and you've done it so well. So kudos to you helping so many people. So you care for a lot of lives. So now that's what you do 80 hours a week at your job, but then you also volunteered and have been involved in Leadership St. Pete, the second oldest leadership program in the country. That's a program of the Chamber of Commerce, and you're the chair this year of that. So can we dive into that a little bit? Tell me what it's like to be in the middle of this and also have 40 wonderful folks looking for direction in this time. How's that going for you?
It's interesting. I will say that all things considered, when you put a group of individuals like those that are in the Leadership St. Pete organization, a bunch of like-minded, strong leaders in the community together, adapting to change is something that comes naturally, in my opinion. They have been so great, and I couldn't do it without the 40 individuals that volunteer to assist me in planning this program, the planning committee. I really owe most of the success to them because they're the ones assisting me in making sure the class is informed. Communication is probably the best thing that we can do right now. The program as a whole clearly hasn't come out exactly as intended or planned initially, but through the support of the class members, the planning committee, our sponsors, even our speakers, everyone's kind of rallied around our cause, giving us the opportunity to feel that support to continue our program moving forward.
Gotcha. And so for those of you, Joe, who haven't heard about Leadership St. Pete, it's been around 51 years now, I guess. It is where 40 folks from the community get selected. They put in an application, they interview for it. They really work to get into this program. And then Maddie and the planning committee takes them on over a 6-month journey where they learn about every angle of St. Pete, from how we handle our public safety to how we handle our health care issues and our economic development issues. On top of learning all that throughout that 6-month cycle, then they take on a social impact event or project where they try to support a not-for-profit that's needing help. And you guys already had chosen one, and so that's kind of somewhat awkward right now too, right? You guys can't get out there and work on that. Who did you choose for your project this year?
We chose Family Resources, Inc. So like you mentioned, it's an RFP application goes out in the beginning of our year, and different not-for-profits in the area can apply. The class then selects from a panelist of finalists, if you will, 3 organizations, and Family Resources, Inc. was the recipient that was chosen this year for Leadership St. Pete's class project. Given the current circumstances and state of our community, and quite frankly, the world, we had conversations with Family Resources, and as a leadership organization decided to reposition our focus and efforts to support our local community. So we've actually transitioned from taking on Family Resources, Inc. as our class project. We're working on being able to present them with a financial supplement, if you will, for the efforts we've had thus far. But we've transitioned our focus to assisting in COVID-19 relief through the Fighting Chance Fund and supporting that.
All right. So So it sounds like, and in the past, Leadership St. Pete classes have raised quite a bit of money for these efforts. I mean, you guys have changed people's lives. What class were you in? What year were you guys?
2013.
And what was your project? Do you remember?
Our project was park, yes. So, yep, up in Tyrone.
Put in the outdoor garden,
Yep, that's correct. That's exactly right.
So you transform folks, and so here's a group of leaders that care enough, and they're going to pivot, and now they're going to help raise money for what we just talked about earlier in the show, which is Fighting Chance, to make sure that and the mayor asked that if there are groups that can help raise money to put it back in, that money goes to those people who work here and that have businesses here. So I appreciate y'all's pivot to that. That's going to be very helpful, and we appreciate that. For those of you who want to learn about Leadership St. Pete, they've got their own website as well. I would learn about Leadership St. Pete because every year we take applications for that, but also they seek donations and contributions as well. So if you want to contribute to Maddie's effort, because you just saw what she's doing for this community, I know she'll take you on and get some help and get you plugged in as well, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Maddie, I want to, first of all, make sure you tell the planning committee, thank you, and tell the 40 members of the class, thank you for what they're going to be doing. I know that they're going to stretch out their year, so that's even a better thing. We're going to have more than 6 months of this leadership class, and we love that about that. And thank you for your continued leadership. You could have easily said, hey, Chris, I can't handle this right now while I'm taking care of real lives. But you actually did the exact opposite and said, how can I do more? And you got your folks plugged into what we're working on. So kudos. I'm so proud of your efforts, and great to call you a friend and a leader in our community. So thanks for being on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And y'all keep up the great work and informing our community.
Right on. Thank you.